What if I told you that the traumatic memory destroying your peace right now doesn't have to exist? What if your brain isn't hardwired for negativity, anxiety, or depression, but is actually rewiring itself every single second you're watching this? What if a brain surgeon who's held thousands of human brains in his hands discovered that your thoughts aren't trapped in rigid circuits, but flowing like jellyfish in an infinite ocean of possibility? Dr. Rahul Jandial, dual-trained neurosurgeon and neuroscientist, has spent decades operating on the human brain, witnessing impossible recoveries and uncovering secrets that most people will never learn. He's discovered that trauma isn't permanent. It's just a memory with the wrong emotional context. These aren't theories. These are battle-tested methods from the cutting edge of neuroscience that will change how you think about your brain, your past, and your future. By the end of this video, you'll understand something most people never grasp. You are not the same person you were a moment ago. Your brain is an ecosystem, and you can reshape it starting tonight. Here's the question that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your mind. What if you're not wired for anything at all? For generations, we've been told we're hardwired, that our neural pathways are like computer circuits, fixed and unchangeable, that anxiety, depression and trauma responses are permanent installations in your brain's operating system. But Dr. Jandial discovered something revolutionary in his operating room. Your brain isn't a circuit board. It's a living ecosystem. Inside your skull right now are 100 billion neurons, microscopic jellyfish sparking electricity at each other, throbbing, branching, pruning, arborizing. Every thought you have is like a flock of birds flowing through the sky, rolling over each other in perfect, ever-changing harmony. Here's the secret most neuroscientists don't tell you. When you think of your brain as wired, you stay stuck. But when you understand it as an ecosystem, a kelp forest, an ocean of possibilities, everything changes. Your action tonight. Stop saying, "I'm wired this way." Start saying, "My brain is an ecosystem that's evolving right now." When negative thoughts arise, visualize them as single waves in an infinite ocean, not permanent structures carved in stone. This simple shift in perspective begins the rewiring process immediately. Can trauma exist without the memory of trauma? Dr. Jandial's answer stunned the neuroscience community. No, trauma cannot exist without the memory. But here's what changes everything. You don't need to erase the memory. You just need to change its emotional context. Think about it. The memory of your past isn't stored like a video file. It's reconstructed every time you recall it. And with each reconstruction, you can alter its emotional signature. A cancer patient remembers a childhood wound differently when they're facing death. A soldier processes combat trauma differently after therapy. The memory remains, but the emotional charge transforms. Here's how it works. Your amygdala processes the emotion. Your prefrontal cortex provides the context. When you consciously reframe a traumatic memory, adding perspective, compassion, or new understanding, you're literally rewiring the neural pathways that connect that memory to pain. Your action tonight. Choose one painful memory. Write it down. Then write 3 new interpretations of that same event, seeing it through the eyes of your wiser self, through the lens of growth, through the perspective of time. Each rewrite weakens the original emotional charge and builds new, healthier neural pathways. Why do you keep falling back into the same negative patterns? Because here's the brutal truth Dr. Jandial uncovered. You're not the same person you were a moment ago, and that cuts both ways. Your brain's neuroplasticity, its ability to change, works constantly. Every moment, you're either building positive habits or reinforcing negative ones. You're either holding on to your progress or sliding backward. Dr. Jandial saw this in patients recovering from brain injuries. Without continuous positive reinforcement, even miraculous recoveries could reverse. The paradox of neuroplasticity. Your brain is built to change, which means positive changes aren't permanent unless you protect them. That meditation practice that transformed your anxiety? If you stop, your brain adapts backward. Your action tonight. Identify one positive mental habit you've lost. Maybe you used to reframe negative thoughts. Maybe you practice gratitude. Restart it tonight, not tomorrow, tonight, because your brain is rewiring itself right now, and you get to choose the direction. What's the single most important skill you can develop for mental health? Well, it's not positive thinking, it's not meditation, not even therapy. My answer? Emotional regulation. Here's why it's the master key. As you age, you naturally get better at coping with trauma and pain. Not because the events hurt less, but because you learn to regulate your emotional response. The difference between reactive suffering and conscious response is emotional regulation. It's the difference between spiraling into anxiety and observing anxiety pass through you. Between trauma controlling your life and you controlling your response to trauma. The neuroscience is clear. When you regulate emotions, you strengthen connections between your amygdala, where strong emotions are processed, and your prefrontal cortex, your rational control center. This isn't suppression, it's sophisticated processing. So, your action tonight. When a negative emotion arises, practice the observe and name technique. Don't fight it. Just say, I notice I'm feeling anxious right now, or I observe anger moving through me. This simple act of naming actually activates your prefrontal cortex and begins regulating the emotional charge automatically. Can an ancient technique actually have measurable effects on your brain's physical structure? The research with electrodes inserted in patients' brains revealed something extraordinary. Mindful breathing doesn't just calm you, it physically restructures your neural architecture. When you practice meditative breathing, you strengthen the connections between your amygdala and prefrontal cortex. Your rational brain becomes better equipped to quiet your emotional brain. But here's what most mindfulness teachers won't tell you. One session does nothing. Consistency rewires everything. The recommended protocol is this. Focused breathing isn't about achieving some mystical state. It's about training your prefrontal cortex to regulate your amygdala. Every breath is a rep in the gym for your brain. So, your action tonight? Set a timer for 5 minutes. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6. When your mind wanders, and it will, notice it and return to the breath. Each time you bring your attention back, you're building the neural pathways that will regulate your emotions and reduce trauma responses. Do this every night for 30 days and just watch your brain transform. Where do peak performance and mental healing intersect? Well, Dr. Jandial discovered something fascinating in his operating room. Flow states exist in the space between hyperfocus and sleep. Focused yet calm, alert yet relaxed. This state isn't just for athletes and artists. It's the optimal state for trauma healing and negative thought destruction. Here's why. In flow, your prefrontal cortex quiets just enough that rigid thought patterns loosen, while your focus remains sharp enough to consciously redirect those patterns. The secret most people miss is that you can't force flow, but you can create the conditions for it. It requires a task that's challenging enough to demand attention, but not so difficult it creates stress. Your action tonight? Choose an activity that absorbs you. Drawing, coding, cooking, writing, playing music. Set a timer for 30 minutes and fully immerse yourself. No phone, no distractions, just flow. In this state, your brain begins automatically reorganizing itself, processing trauma and breaking negative thought loops without conscious effort. Why do brain surgeons work out like elite athletes? Well, because I know something most people ignore. Your brain health is your heart health. Your mental fitness is your physical fitness. The arteries that keep your heart pumping are the same ones that keep your brain thriving. The exercises that build your muscles also build your neural resilience. Physical degradation leads to mental degradation. On the flip side, physical vitality creates mental vitality. Here's the surgeon's workout principle. Go to fatigue, then do 3 more reps. Why? Because the only way your brain tells your muscles to grow is when your muscles tell your brain they're overworked. It's not about how many reps you do. It's about doing those extra reps after you hit your fatigue point. That's when neuroplasticity kicks in. That's when your brain starts adaptive growth. So, your action tonight? Do any exercise, push-ups, squats, whatever feels right. Go until you feel you can't do more. Then do 3 more. Feel that? That's your brain and body communicating, strengthening neural pathways, and building resilience that translates to emotional strength and trauma recovery. What if your most powerful healing happens when you're unconscious? Dr. Rahul's sleep research revealed something extraordinary. When you sleep, your brain doesn't just rest. It transforms short-term experiences into permanent memories, processes trauma, and reorganizes itself. But here's the part that might really surprise you. Students who study and then sleep actually remember more than students who stay awake and keep studying. Sleep isn't downtime, it's processing time. The trauma healing component is huge. During REM sleep, your brain rehearses emotional experiences with the stress hormones turned off. This is like nature's therapy session, re-experiencing memories without the trauma response, gradually weakening the emotional charge. So, your action tonight? Prioritize 7 to 8 hours of sleep as non-negotiable. Before bed, spend 5 minutes reviewing your day's positive moments, not your problems. This primes your brain to process constructively during sleep. Your sleeping brain will do more healing work than any conscious effort could ever achieve. What do cancer patients teach us about healing trauma and negative thoughts? After working with thousands of patients facing their mortality, Dr. Rahul has discovered a real pattern. When people see the finish line, they stop tolerating mental suffering. Cancer patients often realize they wish they'd lived differently, not by achieving more, but by suffering less. Not by working harder, but by worrying less. Not by fixing everything, but by enjoying what they had. Here's the revelation. You don't need a terminal diagnosis to make quality of life your priority. You can choose it right now. A positive frame of mind doesn't just improve your experience, it has measurable effects on your body's ability to fight disease, heal trauma, and resist stress. Here's the paradox. When you stop trying to fix your mental health and start prioritizing your mental experience, healing really accelerates. Your action tonight. Ask yourself my question. If I knew I had 2 years to live, what suffering would I immediately stop tolerating? Negative self-talk, toxic relationships, trauma rumination? Whatever your answer is, start releasing it tonight. Not someday, tonight. Can your brain heal itself even after catastrophic damage? You know, Dr. Rahul has actually performed hemispherectomies, removing half of a child's brain, and watched those children somehow eventually regain full function. He has seen patients with penetrating brain injuries literally drive themselves to the hospital. And he has witnessed trauma survivors with so-called damaged brains go on to live extraordinary lives. The discovery that changes everything is this. When one area of your brain is damaged, the rest of the brain steps up and compensates. Your brain is anti-fragile. It doesn't just bounce back, it reorganizes itself to become even stronger. And look, this isn't just about physical brain injury. It applies to trauma, to those negative thinking patterns, to mental health struggles too. Your brain is built with redundancy and compensatory mechanisms. The implication here is powerful. That traumatic memory, that negative thought pattern, that anxiety response, they feel permanent because they're using well-worn neural pathways. But your brain has, honestly, infinite other pathways it can use. It's already trying to compensate. You just need to help it along. So, your action tonight? When negative thoughts arise, visualize your brain finding alternative pathways around them, like water flowing around a rock. Don't fight the thoughts head-on. Instead, create new streams of thinking. Your compensatory neural genius is already working. Trust it. Is all stress destroying your brain? Well, Dr. Rahul's research actually shattered some pretty common assumptions. Your brain generates new neurons under moderate stress, but none under no stress or, too much stress. The sweet spot for brain growth, trauma healing, and breaking up negative thoughts is actually moderate, manageable challenge. There are two types of resilience. Systemic resilience, which is built through your entire life experience, and processive resilience, which is what you bring to each specific challenge. You need both, really. And both require calibrated stress exposure. Here's the neuroscience. Being hot with mental energy all the time is counterproductive. You'll just make terrible decisions and burn out. But if you're completely stress-free, your brain has no stimulus for growth. So, your action tonight. Identify one area where you're avoiding productive stress. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation, tackling a challenging project, or facing a fear. Tomorrow, expose yourself to 15 minutes of that stress. Not hours, just 15 minutes. That's the dose that triggers neural growth without overwhelming your system. Build up gradually. What's the most underrated tool for mental health that brain surgeons swear by? Play. Dr. Rahul's work with brain health revealed something that, honestly, modern society has totally forgotten. Play isn't optional for brain health, it's essential. When you play, your brain enters a unique state where stress hormones decrease, creative neural connections form, trauma processing accelerates, negative thought patterns dissolve, and mental rigidity gives way to flexibility. Children's brains develop through play, but adult brains heal through play. The prescription? Regular, unstructured play, not exercise, not hobby time, but genuine, purposeless play, activates neural pathways that no amount of meditation or therapy can reach. Your action tonight. Do something playful for 20 minutes. Dance badly, draw silly pictures, play with a pet, build something with your hands, laugh at YouTube videos. The point isn't really the activity, it's the mental state of playfulness. In that state, your brain reorganizes itself, processes trauma naturally, and breaks free from negative loops automatically. Let's bring this full circle. You started this video probably thinking your brain was hardwired, that trauma was permanent, that negative thoughts were unbeatable, that your mental health was fixed. Now you know the truth that was discovered in the operating room. Your brain is an ecosystem that's changing right now. Trauma is just a memory with an emotional context you can rewrite. Your thoughts flow like jellyfish through an infinite ocean, not locked in rigid circuits. You're not the same person you were when you started this video. The 12 techniques you just learned, shift from wired to ecosystem thinking, recontextualize traumatic memories, leverage neuroplasticity intentionally, master emotional regulation, practice mindful breathing daily, enter flow states regularly, connect brain health to body health, use sleep as transformation time, prioritize quality of life now, trust your compensatory genius, dose yourself with moderate stress, and prescribe yourself play. But here's the final secret. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Your brain will only transform if you actually apply these techniques. So here's your challenge. Pick 3 techniques from this list. Not all 12, just 3. Commit to practicing them for the next 30 days. Watch what happens to your trauma responses. Notice how negative thoughts lose their power. Feel your brain reorganizing itself. Your brain is rewiring itself. If these brain surgeon secrets transformed how you think about your mind, smash that like button and subscribe for more cutting-edge neuroscience that actually works in real life. Drop a comment telling me which of the 12 techniques you're starting with tonight, and which one surprised you most. Share this video with someone who's struggling with trauma or negative thoughts. These techniques could literally change their life. Remember, your brain is rewiring itself right now. Every moment is a chance to evolve. Every thought is an opportunity to transform. The question isn't whether you can heal trauma and destroy negative thoughts. The question is, will you? Your ecosystem is waiting. Start tonight.